mean that because you have lost an election, that you cannot be helpful to the nation in a different capacity. I am sure we sit here, there are those who are from the Kenya Kwanza realm, and there are those who are from the Azimio realm. People made their decisions, but here we are sitting as this committee by right and beginning to work together towards what is good for the entire country. So I don't think we should discriminate against any individual who may not have succeeded in one situation from taking up an assignment in another position. I want to assure that the issue of delegated legislation is very, very important. And that is why we are putting more emphasis around this need for coordination and liaison and cooperation within ministries and also with greater interface with the National Assembly, and particularly those that will also handle not just all legislation, but even that delegated the responsibilities on matters of statute. I want to state here that that holistic approach is what we want to bring in. Because it is true, when we operate in silos, we create laws and regulations that become a serious problem to the functioning of the economy and delivery of services. So I think that is a very critical anchor in this matter. On the issue of subsidies and maybe broad commentary on the economy, I just want to say that subsidies can be very expensive. They are usually what you might call targeted interventions to try and mitigate on some issues. Some may be short-term, some may be to spur certain economic activity or agricultural activity or production. They are usually short-term interventions targeted. But I want to try and appeal to the nation that we should not become a nation that thrives on subsidies, because they can be very expensive to maintain. Funding of subsidies can be very, very dangerous if your economy cannot sustain it. And a classic example was the subsidy around the petroleum sector. Mr. Chairman, as I speak here, I was the one who actually removed price controls when we were liberalizing the economy, even on petroleum products. And price controls were also a hidden way of trying to introduce subsidies on petroleum products then. And we used to have shortages of petroleum products because people were playing around with that kind of economic regime. So if we want to go forward, we must be very, very careful that subsidies do not become a permanent feature of our economic policy. That is what I would advise, and that is what I'll advise the President and advise the Kenyans on this matter, that we must find better ways in the long run of spurring economic growth and activity so that people can move away from that. And the key is to make sure that inflation is tamed. Because the whole issue of subsidies is because somebody feels that something is not affordable. So they're looking for some mitigation. But ultimately, if as a country we can fight and contain inflation, then the urge for subsidies will become less as we go ahead. So I didn't want to make this too much of that, but I was just looking at it as